Can you hear me? Can you get me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, okay, the call interrupted. Okay, so this is how this formula is supposed to be done. So I was explaining to say elasticity can be explained at different levels. So how do we know when elasticity of demand is elastic, when the elasticity of demand is inelastic? So there are three key levels. To start with, I said elasticity of demand has a negative relationship. So it is always inverse. But between 1, okay, if it's greater than 1, we say elasticity of demand is elastic. If it's equal to 1, it is unit. If it is more than less than 1, it is inelastic. So I usually use the literal number line here so that you're able to remember. So here we have 0, we have -1, and we have -2. So between 0 and 1, anything starting with the 0 point something is inelastic. At exactly 1, it is unit elastic. Then below -1, that is elastic. So I need to ask you, between points A, B, C, and D, which one is elastic, which one is unit elastic, and which one is inelastic? So A is what?
A is an elastic.
B?
An elastic.
B?
It's an elastic.
It's elastic. It's between here, somewhere the side.
Let me see. B, where's B?
This one here, -3.
Okay. Isn't it negative? When it's negative, it's an elastic.
No. When it's negative, it is elasticity of demand. Or elasticity of demand. Or elasticity of demand is negative. So if the number is starting with a 0 point something, it's inelastic. If it is a number,
okay. Yeah. So this is elastic. Unit. Then this one is an elastic. It's elastic.
Are you sure?
It's elastic. Yes, -1.2 is elastic.
Yes, it's elastic. Yes. So it is elastic. So the answer we found now, therefore, which was -2.22. What is your comment?
It's elastic.
Elastic. The interpretation of this is simply that a 1% increase in price will result into a 2.2 decrease in quantity demanded. So whenever the increase in price is equal to the decrease in price, is called unit elastic. So if we increase price by 4% and we lost demand by 4%, this means what? Elasticity of demand is what? Unit. All right. Now, from the basics, we just understood that elasticity of demand is equal to what? Percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in what? Price. Now, in this regard here, the examiner will just say, suppose the elasticity of demand is -2 and the price increased by 4%. What is the effect on the quantity demanded? So here, we're going to put what? -2.
-2. Yeah.
Percentage change in quantity, we don't know. But we're told that price increased by what? By 4%.
4%.
So here we're going to put a 4% here. So when you cross multiply, percentage change in quantity, therefore, is going to do what?
-8.
-8. So there'll be a decrease in what? In your quantity demanded by 8%. If they say the price, in fact, decreased by 4%, what would you do? Here, would put a negative there. -4 times -2 will be what? Positive what? 8%. So it means the quantity demanded would increase by what? 8%. So the concept simply lies in the law of demand, which says that for any normal good, what happens? An increase in the price. So increase in price will result in the decrease in quantity demanded. So Q1 to Q2 will result in Q2 to Q1. So you need to harness the law and make it practical. All together so far?
It's okay so far?
Yes. So this is what this is entailing. So we have talked about issues to do with inelastic. Whenever the figures are less than what? 1, they're inelastic. So things that are inelastic are things that we can call are insensitive. Any price increase, we may not react so much. So examples are eggs, beef, stationery, gas. All right. So
yeah,
we'll just complain, but we'll still buy either way. So gasoline, this is not what fuel. It's just for the stoves, right? So these are things that are necessities, kind of. Then if you're dealing with things that are elastic, for instance, housing, if it becomes expensive, you go to low income earning residential areas, restaurant meals. When you have more money, you go to certain places that are what? Are affordable. Airline travel, okay, foreign travel. So these ones are elastic, they're sensitive. Even fuel. All right, so interpreting the price elasticity of demand, we have two extreme cases that you need to know in elasticity. There's a point we call perfectly inelastic and perfectly elastic. Inelastic, using this letter I, the function must be a straight line like this. Elastic must be a straight line like this. So this means that if it is inelastic, no matter what price you increase, people will still buy what? The same commodity. It doesn't affect the quantity demanded. Examples are electricity, especially in the monopoly. Even if they increase the same increase the same price, they're still producing the same what? Quantity of electricity. They're just increasing the price. People will just complain, but they'll still buy electricity because they can't do without it. Right? But in a perfectly competitive market, price is very elastic. So if you increase the price even by one way, people will switch. Examples are when you're selling tomato, tomato is 1 kwacha. You want to sell at 1 kwacha to 15 ngwe. People will not buy, they'll switch. There's high switching where demand is perfectly elastic because information is perfect. People know the prices they need to pay. So this is a perfectly inelastic example here. It means an increase in price will still leave the quantity unchanged. No matter how much you increase the price, people will still what? Complain but buy the same quantity. It means it's inelastic. And for perfectly elastic, it is a horizontal line here. So at a constant price, okay, the quantity will be what? Will change. in it. Of course, we can never have such a market because of government intervention, but this simply tells you that any slight increases in pricing will cause people to switch in demand. So what does it mean when demand is elastic? It means if the price elasticity of demand is greater than 1. Okay, so if we have 5 as the elasticity of demand, it means a 1% increase will result in a 5% decrease in quantity demanded. So this means you are losing more when you increase and adding more when you decrease. Elasticity is also very important practically, even in your industry of insurance, because you're competing against other insurance companies, looking at the packages. Of course, there are certain things that are by law standard, like road tax, insurance. But again, we're looking at you being a marketer, seeing that human beings are rational beings, that every small penny counts. Good examples I could talk about are ShopRite and Pick and Pay, which are multinational companies. Sugar in ShopRite can be 5 kwacha, in Pick and Pay can be 4 kwacha 99. People will switch to buying the same sugar in Pick and Pay because of the 1 ungwe difference. So this is what elasticity is all about. As a marketer, it gives you insight on the human consumer behavior. If people are very elastic, you use pricing strategies to penetrate. You could also look at this in terms of the earning income areas. For instance, Chipurukusu and Kansenshi. The tomato for 5,000 kwacha in Purukusu cannot be the same as the pricing even for Kansenshi, because Kansenshi is high earning area. So people will buy even if your tomato of 5 kwacha is just 1 tomato. But people from Chipurukusu, because of their earning capacity, they would rather go to a place where it's far cheaper. So that is a concept in understanding and interpreting elasticity of demand. So you need to understand that also elasticity of demand is important even in trade. Zambia, for instance, you discover that we sell most of our exports at a cheaper price because of what? The balance of payment, and hence to attract more forex. Sugar, practically, as we speak, is cheaper exported than it is bought locally. This is because Zambia needs a forex, and this is what improves the exchange rate. And most people who don't understand this may query why Zambians are able to buy cheaply from outside and within. The answer is simply issues of elasticity and the exchange rate. So I have explained how to calculate these using point elasticity. Okay. Now, what is the relationship between elasticity and total revenue? So we need to understand, number 1, there's an effect on the price and the sales effect. After a price increase, each unit sold at a higher price will tend to raise the revenue. After a price increase, fewer units are sold, which will tend to lower the sales revenue. So there are 2 effects that you're expected to have. Number 1, the units that you are selling at an additional price, because price times quantity will result in what we call total revenue. So we know that whenever we increase the price, depending on elasticity, if demand is inelastic, you're going to sell more commodities, meaning your total revenue will be high. At the same time, you need to be very sensitive. If your elasticity of demand is elastic, meaning it's sensitive, your price increase will result in fewer goods being bought. Hence, you're going to have a small revenue. So when to increase your price, it really depends on the type of elasticity that exists at that particular moment. So to either increase your total revenue because of the price effect, or to reduce your sales revenue because of the sales effect. Is that clear?
Very clear.
All right. So I've explained this in terms of elasticity. So we also need to understand what determines elasticity of demand. To practically understand what elasticity of demand effects are, we also need to also understand what affects demand generally, because some of them come from there. So we'll go to the determinants of demand. For some of them are what are the factors that affect demand? We have price of that particular good, X. We have price of another good, Y, which could be a substitute. We have income. We have population, which is N. We have taste and technology. We have weather. We have advertising. We have place or location. We have what else? Culture. There are many, but of these ones here, there are some that have.
You included income?
Yes, income.
You included income?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Now, these factors that affect demand will now bring about what we call elasticity. So X against X will produce what we call on-price elasticity of demand. X against Y will produce what we call cross-price elasticity of demand. And X against income will produce what we call income elasticity. So let me start with on-price elasticity of demand. What we're practically looking at initially was on-price elasticity of demand. This is the reaction that people have just on a particular good. What happens when the price of mini meal goes up? So income or on-price elasticity is in terms of elastic or inelastic or unitary. But for this cross-price elasticity of demand, we're looking at substitutes and complementary goods. When the answer that you get is positive, we call this what? A complementary good. When the answer that you get is negative, we call it a what? A substitute good. Positive, it is a substitute good. Negative, it is a complementary good. What are complementary goods? Goods which go hand in hand. What are substitute goods? These are goods which can be substituted, which have the same usage, like what? Bread and candle. So when your cross-price elasticity of demand gives you a positive answer, just know that those are substitute goods. For income, you can either get a negative or a positive. So a negative means an inferior good. An inferior good is simply a good which you demand less of as your income goes up, like Salaula, black and white TV. All right. When you get the positive, it is called what? A normal good. But there are two types of normal good. If it's increasing, it's more than one, it's called a luxury good. If it's less than one, just a normal good or a necessity. All right. What have I said? I talked about
You said
key.
it increases. Mhm.
Yes, I've said for cross price elasticity, either have a negative or a positive. A negative will be what? What type of good is this? Complementary. And the positive is what?
Substitute.
Substitute. This is when you're dealing with cross price. For income, a negative is what?
Inferior.
Inferior good. A positive is a what?
It's a normal good.
Except that we have two types of normal good. Number one, between 0 and 1, because it's a necessity. Like housing, shelter. More than one is called a luxurious good. These are both what? Normal good. A normal good is simply a good if the income goes up, the quantity demanded goes up. Both are normal, except that between 0 and 1, it's a necessity. Above 1, it's a luxury. Is that clear? So what are the factors that affect elasticity of demand? Number one, close substitutes. If there are close substitutes that are available, then you have also whether this good is a necessity or a luxury. Time also affects your elasticity of demand. So what are the other elasticities? Under close price elasticity, we have what? Substitutes and complement. Substitutes have a positive, complements have a negative. Then under income elasticity, there are three types of goods. Inferior, if it's negative. Normal good, if it's positive. Under normal good, we have the two types we talked about. What? Necessities and luxury. Is that clear? Are we together?
Hi, Collins. Are you able to just repeat a bit?
To repeat which part?
Sorry, you're breaking a little bit. You're kind of breaking a little bit. So maybe you can just get a little bit back.
Okay, so I was saying on other.
You can just just that.
Yes, I was saying we've talked about two key other demand elasticities. On cross price elasticity, we said substitutes and complement. The substitutes will have a positive elasticity and complement will have a negative elasticity. Under income elasticity, you need to take note of two goods, the normal goods and inferior goods. The normal goods have a positive elasticity of income, the inferior goods have a negative elasticity of income. Except that on the normal goods, we have two categories. We have the necessity and the luxury. The necessity is between 0 and 1. The luxury is above 1. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
All right. So elasticity of supply, the percentage change in quantity supplied over percentage change in price. It's the same formula, except that now here, elasticity of supply always has a positive what? Relationship. Why? Because elasticity of demand is negative like this, and elasticity of supply is positive like this. So meaning an increase in price will be accompanied by an increase in what? Quantity supplied. Example is FRA. If the price of maize is high up, farmers are more willing to sell more to FRA. Unfortunately, just recently, the price that was dictated was very, very, very low. So it might decrease the interest of farmers to selling to government. Rather, they'd rather sell it to Congo or any other neighboring countries whose prices would be more appealing. So the other concepts still remain the same. This is perfectly inelastic, where the prices can change. You can increase the price, but leaves the quantity supplied unchanged. So we say elasticity is what? Perfectly inelastic. Same application here at the level of 12, right? If they maintain the same price of supply, government, people can switch. They can sell it to any other person because the price of maize is not appealing. So the factors that affect supply are the availability of input, the time aspect, the weather. All right. So those are factors that affect what? Our elasticity of supply. So I'll end here. The next class we're going to have, I think during the week, we'll have a consumer surplus and producer surplus in terms of elasticity. For today's work, I'll send you some homework based on what we have just discussed. We'll end here and answer questions.
Okay, I think it's understood. I appreciate the questions. Yeah, just something to go through. Is this